welcome to Culture on I-24 News. I'm Oded Grober, happy to be here as always. Today on our program, we'll talk about the 2015 MidBurn, the Israeli Burning Man, which will take place this weekend. A look at this place, a large-scale photography project about Israel. And we'll hear about street musicians who became social media sensations. MidBurn is the Israeli version of Burning Man. The first official event took place in 2014, attracting 3,000 people. And the upcoming 2015 MidBurn will take place hopefully this weekend with an expected attendance of 6,500. But in the last few days, police have been threatening to prevent the event from taking place. With us to tell us all about it is Dan Pegin, Head of Communication for MidBurn. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
So let's start with what's happening really nowadays. What's the police saying? Where do we stand? Are we gonna enjoy MidBurn this upcoming weekend?
I think we will, but after 5 crazy days of trying to get the event running, we finally got a meeting with the police yesterday, and I think we've bridged the gap between the police and the community.
So what was the issue? I mean, they tried to present you as a menace to society. I don't know.
Yeah, the police set up really difficult requirements for the event to happen, which almost put they basically tried to cancel the event because they probably didn't understand the principles of our community and the values of our community.
The issues that made the headlines, at least, are issues of they wanted cameras placed all over the event. They were worried of nudity, of public nudity, of drug use, which things that could occur, but they're certainly not things that you guys are hoping for, aiming for.
Right. They wanted to set some kind of precedent. I don't know if they wanted to set precedent, but it would set a precedent to put cameras that were aimed at camping areas and where people sleep and shower. And so that was basically an intrusion to privacy that could be a precedent to other events.
A very risky one. All right. So tell us about the event itself. What is MidBurn all about?
MidBurn is a participatory event where there's. This year there's going to be 6,500 people that are coming, 500 from abroad. Everybody is a participant, meaning there's no organizer of content. All the content is organized by the participant himself. So if an artist...
It's not like there's a stage with...
No, there's no organized stage. Everything is organized by the participants themselves. So if an artist wants to build a huge art installation of an old man, they can go ahead and do this. And usually it's financed by themselves, or they do a Kickstarter or whatever. And so they put months and hours into these installations.
Yeah.
There's also groups that organize music and whatever people want to do in terms of content, of art, of culture, they can do.
What kind of people show up at these events?
From all walks of life. It's apolitical. It's one of our principles is radical inclusion. So there's people from
radical inclusion.
Radical inclusion. Everybody's invited. So we have old people, young people. We have startup entrepreneurs. We have artists. We have musicians. We even have a Nobel Prize laureate that's coming. Scientists, actors. It's just people who want to set up a city in the middle of the desert for a temporary city where they can express themselves and do whatever they want.
Yeah, and there are people coming from abroad as well, right?
Yes, there's 500 participants from abroad.
It's like this community of burners, they're called, that are traveling the world.
The main event is in Nevada, Burning Man.
Yep.
It's been around for 30 years, every year, and this year there was 70,000 people there. It's a huge community of hundreds of thousands of people that just like to go to the desert and build art.
How did you yourself get involved in this?
3 years ago, I went to Burning Man for the first time. I didn't really know what I'm getting into, And 3 years later, I'm head of communications for MidBurn. So I've been there in 2012, 13, 14. And it's a life-changing event.
Wow. You know, it's been around for a while, Burning Man, by now.
Burning Man's been around for 30 years, yeah.
Yeah. Some of the I don't know if I should call it criticism, but people say it as criticism, is that it's not really that free. It's that it's kind of bourgeois, actually. It's you know, high-tech people who just want to kind of let loose for a few days. You think that's the case, or is that the case and it's not a bad thing necessarily?
First of all, our event, MidBurn, for example, has low-cost tickets for people who need them. So we try to really push radical inclusion to the extreme and get people that couldn't otherwise come. We also set up community events outside of MidBurn itself in the desert. We go and clean the beaches, and we believe that this is a participatory community that can have an impact on our community, on the area, on the country, and on the world. So this is about participation, about people committing themselves and volunteering. I've been doing the communications for MidBurn as a volunteer for 4 months, and it has a deep impact on people's participation in the world.
Right, the way they carry themselves, the way they handle themselves on a day-to-day.
It's less about consuming, where our world is all about consumption. It's more about creation and participation.
Well, it sounds like there are great ideas behind it, and I'm sure it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Let's hope the police doesn't shut it down. Dan, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, this place is an artistic endeavor initiated by photographer Friedrich Brenner with the ambitious goal of chronicling the complexities of Israel and Israeli life. That through photography. 12 acclaimed photographers such as Stephen Shore, Joseph Kudelka, and Martin Kolar were invited to explore Israel and the West Bank, and the result is exhibited at the Tel Aviv Museum of Art. David Gombin has more.
I thought if I'm going to do something in Israel, I have to photograph the wall.
Joseph Kudelka, one of the most acclaimed contemporary photographers in the world. Born in Czechoslovakia, he grew up in the shadow of the Iron Curtain that separated him from Germany. He therefore felt a close familiarity with the walls separating Israel from the territories of the Palestinian Authority.
Most of the time, I photograph only things which I love. When I came here, it was difficult to photograph for me here because I photographed something what I didn't like.
This place presents the work of 12 prestigious international photographers who came to the Holy Land to show us their perspective of the Middle East.
My feeling is that it's you're more tense, or like I expect maybe stronger criticism and pointing out maybe the weaknesses of the project or the limits.
After debuting in Prague, this monumental exhibition is shown at the Tel Aviv Museum of Art, a sort of homecoming. The project wasn't easy. An outside view of the country is not always appreciated, something that photographers are aware of.
The audience is, of course, mostly Israeli. They live here and they have a certain perception of reality they developed being part of this place. But I think it's important to have an outside view.
Miri Krimolowski, a journalist specializing in Radio Kol Israel, is an expert on Israeli society. She knows it is not easy to accept outside criticism.
In my opinion, some people will feel uncomfortable, but those who will be open-minded enough to have a look at these places will be rewarded in getting to learn more about them.
Other photographers have chosen a different angle during their stay in Israel, like Martin Kolar. To avoid the duality of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, he chose not to photograph in Israel.
The work was progressing. I was more and more convinced and happy about the decision I've taken for many other reasons, and particularly that I could focus on some other things that like the conflict we already been somehow very familiar with.
Too familiar, perhaps? There's not doubt that with the abundance and diversity of portraits and landscapes, the Israeli public will now have the opportunity to admire in a single room the works of some of the most acclaimed photographers of the world.
In a moment, we'll hear some tunes from street musicians around the world. But first, here's our cultural recommendation for today.
They haven't been exposed for over 50 years, but now the personal affairs of Frida Kahlo are out on display in pictures. After the death of the great Mexican painter in 1954, her husband Diego Rivera decided to paint their house in southern Mexico with the color blue. It wasn't until 2004 that the house known as the Frida Kahlo Museum finally reopened. And this is where the Japanese photographer Miyako Ishiuchi immortalized her dresses, nail polish, and other accessories of the artist. Today, these pictures are exhibited in London. Witness of the intimacy of the artist, they do not hide anything from the public. The artist had contracted polio at the age of 6. At 18, she suffered a serious bus accident, and 2 years before her death, she had her leg amputated because of gangrene. These photos describe the state of mind of Frida Kahlo, who chose to overcome her physical suffering while always remaining feminine, strong, and creative.
Daniel Campos is already in the studio bringing us some tunes from around the world.
Indeed, Oded.
How
We
are
have some great artists today who became very popular through social media. Tourists filmed them, and that's how they became very well known.
It's a great idea, you know. Not long ago, we saw you two posing as street performers, trying to promote this thing or another. But this is the other way around. People who play on the street and somehow got recognized.
Indeed, most of the time we can say it's musicians who are actually coming from very humble backgrounds. Let's start out, for example, with Brushy one string from Jamaica, from a rural area in Jamaica.
Brushy one string. Let's take a look and then you'll tell us some more.
With one string.
With one string. Why? It makes me wonder why other guitars need more than one string. That's the only thing I know.
Indeed, the resourcefulness and creativeness of this musician. Chicken in the Corn, this was a very big hit on YouTube. You could also see it on Facebook going around. He's the son of actually a legend, Freddie McKay, a very well-known soul singer from Jamaica, who actually passed away when he was a young little boy. Another very impressive musician we can see all the time on Facebook being shared is Wes Freeman from Liberia. Blind musician who makes his instrument, his guitar, out of a tin can.
Wow. All right, let's take a look. With a little bit of talent, you really can play anything, huh?
Incredible. And well, if you go on YouTube, you'll see plenty of videos of him uploaded by different tourists who visited Liberia. And then another band which has also become very popular on social media is from Venezuela, Compases. Ooh, they play.
What does that mean?
Compases, the compass, we can say.
Okay.
They became very popular by playing folk instruments, but in a very interesting, we can say, radical approach.
Let's see. Very energetic.
You thought playing maracas was easy, wasn't it, before watching this video?
Not for me. Not for me. Great, interesting stuff. Daniel, thanks. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You're going to have something else for us that we're going to end with. What are we going to watch?
A street musician from Amsterdam who plays a slide guitar, Jack Broadbent.
Jack Broadbent. So we're done for today, but Jack Broadbent's going to take us till the end of our show. We'll be back tomorrow, so please join us again.